Hi all. In this video we're going to go over how to find the surface area of prisms and cylinders. So let's first start off by defining some vocabulary words. What is a prism? A prism is a polyhedron with two congruent parallel faces. And remember, a polyhedron is a 3D figure that's made up of whose sides or faces are polygons. All right, and those two parallel faces are called the bases, and it's really important to locate the bases on your prism before you start any of your problems. The height of the prism, or the height of a cylinder, is the distance between the two bases. And remember, distance is always measured by the shortest distance. So when we look at the height of a prism or a cylinder, we're looking at the perpendicular height. The lateral area of a prism or a cylinder is the sum of the areas of the sides of the prism. So how do you find the sides? Well, you first find the two parallel bases and get rid of them. Anything that's remaining is a lateral side, or a side of a prism or a side of a cylinder. And then the last vocabulary word is surface area. It's the lateral area plus the area of the two bases. So surface area includes anything that if you picked up that 3D object, any of the sides that you could actually touch. All right, so that includes your lateral sides and your two bases. All right, so let's take a look at the formula for finding surface area. The surface area of a prism equals 2 times the area of the base. So capital B is the area of one of the bases, plus the perimeter of the base. Remember, that's the perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. All right, so let's go ahead and define these pieces. This is the area of the bases, of both bases together. Two bases. Therefore, this must be the lateral area. All right, and I just want to make sure that you know that capital B is the area of one base, because the bases are congruent, and capital P is the perimeter of the base. All right, so let's go ahead and work these two problems here. We're going to go ahead and find the surface area of these two prisms. All right, I know they're prisms because they have, they're polyhedrons and they have two sides. Each of them has at least two sides that are parallel. So let's go ahead and find the parallel sides. I'm going to mark the parallel sides for this first one. So we have a bunch of parallel sides here. So I'm just going to select two of them that are parallel. So you can have more than one pair of parallel sides. But because they're called bases, I usually look at what's on top and what's on the bottom, if there is a top and a bottom that's parallel. So the very first thing I need to do in my formula is I need to find the area of one of those bases and multiply it by 2. So my surface area is going to be 2. And how do I find the area of one of these bases? Well, it's a rectangle. So the area of a rectangle is just length times width, or height times base, however you want to think about it. All right, so now I have to find the perimeter. I have to add to this the perimeter of a base. So let's label all four sides. I know for a rectangle, opposite sides are congruent. So I'm going to label it like this. So my perimeter is going to be 5 plus 5 plus 2 plus 2 times the height. The height is the perpendicular height. So my height is this distance right here. It's going to be 7. So when I figure that calculation out, 5 times 2 is 10 times 2 is 20. This is going to be 14 times 7, which is 91. and that's going to equal 111. And there's no units on this, so I'm just going to write units squared. And that would be my surface area. So how do we do it with a triangular prism? The first prism was called a rectangular prism. This one is called a triangular prism because the bases are triangles. All right, so I'm going to outline my bases. These are the only two sides in this figure that are parallel. And it is a right triangle. And I want you to notice something about this triangle. Both of these sides are congruent. So this is definitely a 45, 45, 90 triangle. All right, so let's go ahead and find the area of one of my bases, because that's what the formula requires us. The surface area equals 2 times the area of a base. And we know for a triangle, the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. Well, the base is 7. And remember, the height is perpendicular to the base, so this must be the height of my triangle. Okay, so that is the area of one of my bases, and I multiply it by 2 because I have 2 of them. Now I have to find the perimeter of my triangle. Well, I know the perimeter is 7 plus 7, but I'm missing one of the sides. So I'm going to use my knowledge of 45, 45, 90 triangles to draw in the other side. Okay, so remember we multiply a leg by radical 2 to get the side of the hypotenuse for a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So now I'm going to add 7 radical 2. And then we have to find the height of my prism. The height is the perpendicular distance between the two bases. And there's my height right there. So I'm going to multiply this by 12. So let's do this calculation. 2 times 1/2 is 1, so I can get rid of that. So I get 49 plus, I have 14 plus 7 radical 2 times 12. Well, what's 14 times 12? I have to distribute that 12. So I get 49 plus, I have 140 plus 28 is 168. What's 7 times 12? That's 84 radical 2. So I end up with, let's see, 217 plus 84 radical 2 units squared. All right, so I think we have time for a couple more examples on prisms. So this time in this prism, this is a lot like the problem that you have for number 2. I'm going to go through the steps of number 2 so that you know what to do. All right, so let's locate our bases, and I drew this as best I could. They're the two sides that are parallel. So how many sides is that? That's 6 sides. Okay, so this is a hexagonal prism because it's 6-sided. Okay, so those are my bases. So anything but the hexagons are my bases. Since this tells me that this is a regular hexagon, all of the sides must be the same, okay, because they have the same base, which is 6, and the same length, which is 9. So let's go back to the formula. The formula for surface area was 2 times the area of the base plus the perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. So we said earlier that this is the lateral area, the formula for lateral area. So we're going to find the lateral area by calculating the perimeter of the base and multiplying it by the height. And we call the lateral area LA. So the perimeter of the base, well, the base has 6 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And each side is 6. So that is 6 times 6. That's my perimeter. And the height of this octagon is this distance right here. That's 9. Okay, so I have 6 times 54, which is 324 units squared. That's my lateral area because I only used half of my formula. All right, so the next thing we're going to find is the area of one of my bases. So I'm going to draw that base out. That base is a hexagon. It has 6 sides. Wow, that was bad. Maybe I should draw it a little bit bigger so we can see a bigger picture of it. All right, so let's draw it a little bit bigger. All right, that looks a little bit better. So this is one of those polygons where we have to find the area, and remember this is area equals 1/2 apothem times the perimeter. So the very first thing we should do is split this up into triangles, equal triangles. I know that this has a length of 6, and because I split it up into 6 equal triangles, this is 60 degrees. So when I drop my apothem, I split the base in half, so I have a triangle that is 3 on one side, and I split my angle in half, so that is going to be 30 degrees. So let me draw this triangle so that we can see it a little bit bigger. This is 30 degrees. This is my apothem, and this is 3. All right, so we just need the apothem. So the 3 is the short side, the apothem is the long side. So this is going to be 3 radical 3. So remember to go from the short side of a 30, 60, 90 triangle to the long side of a 30, 60, 90 triangle. You multiply by radical 3. All right, so to find the area of the base, one of my bases, it's going to be 1/2 times my apothem, which is 3 radical 3, times the perimeter of my hexagon, and we have 6 equal sides, and each side is a length of 6, so that's 6 times 6. So I'm just going to reduce this to make it 3. So the area of my base is going to be 9 times 6, which is 54 radical 3. So that's the area of my base, units squared. All right, so how do we use this to find the surface area? Well, my surface area formula, remember, was 2 times the area of my base plus the perimeter times the height. And the perimeter times the height is the lateral area, which we've already found. So I'm just going to multiply the area of my base times 2 and add it to my lateral area. So my surface area is 2 times 54 square root of 3 plus my lateral area, 324. So I end up with 108 radical 3 plus 324. And that's going to be units squared. All right, I'm going to end this video now because I don't have enough time to do the other examples, and I will create another video with these other examples, okay?